mobile broadband perspective. So one aspect naturally for 5 years to prepare for the growth that will be, and we heard the previous speaker saying that the growth will be there, we need to find more efficient way to be able to deliver that growth in order to be able to sustain the business for the operators. This is examples on how many new subscribers will be globally coming in during the next couple of years, and in order to prepare the network for the next era, we need to build a system that can handle that. However, this is not all that is needed, because we will also have the network society. So mobile broadband is one aspect where we see how we are today using the systems and the mobile system with our smartphones and so on. However, on top of that, we will then have a tremendous growth in new devices that's coming in. That will derive also new need for business aspects when it comes to these devices. Will not have the same models for selling that the operator has. They will also have other type of user-driven behavior, which will be very different than what we have for the regular mobile broadband users. Being able to differentiate the networks adapted to the different devices will be also an important part of the network. And this will be driven by the different use cases that we will have in this area. So if we look at what is the major use cases that we see, we have already talked about the mobile broadband, and the demand will be that this will be available everywhere, and also that the speed that is expected, especially in the cell edge, should need to be higher than what we have today and what we are able to do with the 4G networks today. So there will be a focus on retrieving an ubiquitous coverage of a higher speed than what we have today as part of the fiber. The other piece is the massive growth of new machine-to-machine. All of these devices will have very different characteristics, and today's network is defined with a very limited or quite limited characteristics, meaning that it's focusing on the mobile broadband experience. We will then now have devices that need to have energy efficiency, that they can be there for a month without having been charged. There is other aspect like you transmit only small amount of data. And you need to build an entire network, not only the radio access network, to adapt to this in order to be able to have a sustainable business model. The other piece is we will also see a more massive adaptation of personalized TV. Today we have YouTube and to some extent Netflix and so on, but it haven't really, from a mobile perspective, been fully adapted. We will see that that's happening, and then that will drive more traffic in the network and so on. And also that will need to require, from a core network perspective, the capability for operator to offer new business models where there are flow of money, both coming from the subscriber as well as coming from the content provider or advertisement. The other piece that we can also see is that the critical management of devices. This will require very low latency, as you may have a camera on a device or a drone that's flying around, and you would like to be able to monitor that as well as control it. And the network will then, this will drive businesses in new industries based on that. They can then make their business more efficient, like a drone that can monitor the farms, agriculture and so on, or even put fertilizer or things like that. You don't need to have airplanes and so on to do that anymore. That will make it very valuable for certain industries to use mobile as part of controlling their environment. So, what does that mean for the network? That means that it will be a much more magnitude of performance or driven performance for the individual use cases. And with today's network, you need to migrate that to a network that can actually simultaneously support all these devices in a different way in order to be able to monitor. This would require maybe changes on the interface, air interface, changes to signaling and so on, to adapt to the specific use cases that user has and provide that simultaneously for the multiple users. Another thing that is very important is the energy performance, especially then for devices that should be distributed, sensors and things like that should be distributed for a long time and don't require them to be recharged so often. The core network also needs to be provided in a way where it can adapt to the business models that different industries has. A big part of the devices will be sold through an enterprise environment rather than today where you sell to individual subscribers or bulk for the enterprises. But you will then need to have more programmable network, which means that you can adapt what the behavior is for the devices from the enterprise in order to adapt to what they want to achieve. So there's been a lot of discussion on what is the requirements on the new network. And yeah, this is an example from the Metis project, and previous speakers have also seen or discussed different requirements. And there is a process now that we're going through within the industry to try to establish what is the baseline, what would be the requirements on the 5G system. And this is important because we need to find a standard, a common standard that can be used both from a radio access perspective, which might be different type of accesses, but it's still something that is agreed within the industry, because this is important because we need to build an ecosystem that can be make it economically viable to provide equipment for this mobile network. So the important things for the new network is flexibility and robustness, and it's the combination at the same time. So we need to have flexibility in order to be able to adapt the network to the industry that we want to go after. So we have the current mobile broadband type of business where we're selling smartphones and applications around smartphones. However, now we will also need to have programmable network in that sense that we can adapt the interfaces, and part of the network might be in an enterprise where they have their own software running on a network which will interact directly with the operator in order to provide an end-to-end service for that specific operator. Like, for example, a drone that you want to control. You want to maybe have the application on how to control that external for the operator, but you need to interact with the network in order to allocate the correct resources. So there need to be built on the core network better capability or defined capability in order to be able to offer these type of services. This is also very important that the previous speaker also mentioned, that the security need to be started looking at from an end to end. In 4G and 3G it was very much focused to secure the air interface, while in 5G it gets more and more important that you can trust the network and trust the security when you're using the network. So our view is that it will be a single network that the operator can offer, but they will offer it to multiple industries, and that is industries related to smartphones, but also healthcare, car industries, where you can provide capabilities and service in the cars, both to the car manufacturer, but also to the user of the car. And that might be two different use cases or new subscribers which are building a business model that the operator can offer. There's also shopping and mobile TV that it will be very more important. But all of these need to be supported simultaneously in a single network, which is where most of the challenges are. And I talked about the security is important as part of this, but also sustainability. Naturally, we need to go even beyond where we are today when it comes to energy efficient in order to deploy the network. And also, are we able to deploy them? Where are we able to deploy them in that sense that they should be able to fit into the environment where they should be deployed? As they need to support a higher speed in ubiquitous coverage, which means that they will be, the network will need to be deployed very ubiquitous, which means that we need to have access to areas where we can provide that. So, where is the 5G? There have been a lot of focus on the radio network, and there was a question earlier today as well regarding, is 5G only a new radio access? No, it's not. In our view, and what I've said before here as well, is that the entire network, including the core network, and how the operators were able to, on the core network side, offer services, is very important as part of the entire 5G ecosystem that we are building. So it includes technologies like NFV and SDM integrated together with the RAN access, which will be then adapted and expanding to more broader spectrum in order to provide the capacity. However, the radio access and the networks need to also be focused on these different differentiations when it comes to registration, use of network resources for the different type of devices in an efficient way. So, what's happening in industry now is that we have a broad dialogue and definition on how to define for 5G. The 5G is what we see probably to be the requirement of what is the use cases will probably happen sometimes next year. And then we will have an evolution through 3GPP, but also other forums in order to define what is the technologies to actually solve the problems. And then that will consolidate to sometimes 19 to 2020, where the network or the defined standard will be there, and we should be able to drive equipment and devices that can be using the new technologies. So, just as we are doing this, we naturally, as Ericsson, we are actually driving different research, and one example of that is that we have a test bed for 5G where we are looking on different technologies in details and try to evaluate different type of solutions as part of what we are suggesting to be the solution. However, today we don't know exactly what is the requirements, so as part of this is to help building what is feasible to be doing in the time frame that we are looking for. So, what is important here? Yes, it's important that we're building on the experience that we have from the last 4 generations. However, we need to look into what is the new requirement. But a lot of things we'll be building on the equipment or the technologies that we have already done, and now we will be focusing on outside of the scope in order to solve the new problems that we are facing. It's very important that we have a global standard, because that will build the ecosystem that is needed, especially for terminals, but also for the network equipment, in order to give them an efficient availability of the technology. We see that it's important that we are spanning the entire network, not only the radio access. And we also see that as the Internet of Things or network society is being a big part of 5G, it's important that we now include the industries that actually will be the users of that part of the network. They will be part of the setting the requirement what they need in order to be able to leverage their capabilities in the network. That's it.
I'm sorry, but we don't have any time for questions, so I invite you to go see